I'll get started with the show. So it's great to have everybody here today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I am the host of How to Build a Unicorn. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur, and I've been involved in startups over 30 years in Silicon Valley. Several unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. I'm the CEO and president and founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios, premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. We have a hyper accelerator called GSD Labs, where we work for startups all over the world that want to go global using Silicon Valley as a port. Today, we have 127 companies in our portfolio from 55 countries around the world. And, it's with great pleasure that my good friend Guillaume joins us today. He's shown incredible insight in helping, especially early stage startups. We're helping them getting product market fit. The challenge today is 9 out of 10 companies fail. And 40% of them are because the companies don't have product market fit. So Guillaume is dedicated to helping fellow entrepreneurs. He's dedicated to working with GSD and helping us find those companies that want to go global and want to become a unicorns because they have the capacity, they have the team, they have a product to be able to get shit done. So it's with that, I introduce my friend Guillaume. So how you doing today, Guillaume?
I'm doing good. For us right now, we recently launched the Android version of our mobile app, which is pretty much a accelerator program in the palm of your hands. And of course, we've got the GSD Venture Studios in the app, of course, as one of our highly featured venture studios in the app. And with that app, early stage founders can more or less really get shit done. And people can just search for it on their VDT, Validate Startups. So really busy with that.
So tell me about, how did you get started, Guillaume, and building companies? What was, if you go back, let's go back in time. So when you went back and you were working with, Rosandi, Hilton, and as you're growing your career, how in the world did you go from doing front runner in sales to building companies?
Well, it was more or less. I'll have to give my mom the credits for this one because basically she had a bigger vision where it was, hey, get your hands dirty on the one end where you really buckle down and do the groundwork. But on the other end, get in the books and get the smarts to also work on a high level. So as I was a student, that's when I was doing my hustle and selling sneakers and whatnot. But at the same time, I was also at the university, really getting my education on and focused on the tech side of things. And as I got into the tech side, that's when I started to gain an appetite for, hey, what's going on the business front with startups. And as I started to get a better and better and better understanding of the mechanics of a business, I started connecting with parties as accelerator programs, as venture capital firms, and all of these ecosystem players, where I bounced around and eventually started my own shop, where I was then able to help my fellow entrepreneurs.
No, it's great. And, so we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, and the market's changed a bit. What's the state of the market with institutional investors from a European perspective? How is it right now?
For when it comes to the institutional investments in Europe, I have to say it is still moving, but at the same time, things are a bit stagnant. On the one end, you have some very, you could say, progressive VCs that want to play on the same playing field as their American counterparts, where they want to write bigger checks or at least run funds with a bigger fund size. But due to regulations and things of that nature, um, they can't run the fund sizes as their American counterparts. So that is one area with that's bringing a big bit of stagnation into the whole VC investment scene, because the LPs themselves, they're not uh, too keen on allocating as much funds as they actually should, because they're very risk averse. So that's one thing that's going on. And another development is that family offices are stepping up to fill that gap. So those are some of the movements that are taking place now.
Yeah, no, you're right about the family offices. I actually had one of the families from Austria call me. They're looking to make an investment in a company, and this is on a friend basis. But that particular well-known family, they want to put $125 million into OpenAI, right? You're talking about that kind of wealth. And so for the startups out there, in fact, I have one of my companies doing working on a $2 million deal right now in the middle of the United States. It's a family office. They're very active. So the key is having those contacts to be able to get to the families. And it's kind of a closed community, so it's not so easy. In fact, for all of you out there, the family offices are many times limited partners in most of the funds. You just don't know it because they don't want their family know.
Very true.
And so once you're inside of these family offices, what's the benefit? Well, you can imagine if you're an AI company and you're doing customer service, and that particular family is one of the largest consumer products group, owns a significant part of one of the CPG companies, and they happen to invest in you, how easy is it for them to help you be able to get traction? Now, each one of those families talks to one another. And when I say that, I can, GSD is my family office, so it is our family office, and we're like the poorest family office in the family offices. It's like having the smallest house in the block, but you're in the same development, But on the other side of it, we're seeing incredible deals. We have 127 companies in our portfolio today from 55 countries, and there's funding going around. So you got to get out. The family offices are important. By the way, using Silicon Valley as a port, Guillaume, is really interesting because I'm seeing more companies coming right now out to Silicon Valley because they see that there's hope. There's just a lot of dry powder. The family offices are focusing on deals from there. It's interesting. Why would, family offices in Hong Kong, another one I just had from India, interested in investing in companies in the Valley? Well, they're companies that come from Amsterdam, right? They're companies that come from Austria or Switzerland or Germany, but they come out because there's a ecosystem that built that's very surgically focused. And what do you see? So what's really hot right now, Guillaume? We're building a unicorn. What's hot besides ChatGPT? Because I know you're going to say
it. well, ChatGPT is hot, but if you know Europeans in general, they're very cautious. So they're looking at it as, okay, how does it actually go together? So it's definitely a hot topic, but the metaverse and AI itself, that is still very, very, very much a hot topic over here. And to your point, yes, companies are going, first chance they get, they're trying to get to Silicon Valley, just because the unicorns that went to Silicon Valley that were actually European, they are a very big advocate, and they're not necessarily dissing Europe, but they're making it clear like, hey, if you want to make it big, you're not sticking around in Europe. You're going overseas on the other side of the pond to really make something happen. So that plays a major role when it comes to companies that are, you could say, that started out in Europe, but after they reach a certain, you can almost say a certain plateau, that's when they're like, okay, we might want to look into what's going on in the States. So that's to your point with everybody going to Silicon Valley. And I have to say, a trend that's happening right now is that companies out of, let's say, Eastern Europe, that they're starting out in Eastern Europe, but when they're looking to raise capital, that they're setting up a, you could say, a sister organization or something like that, getting that registered in either the UK or one of the big Western European countries. Because for raising capital, that just makes the optics are just slightly better. And that is a similar play that Western European startups do when they want to expand and go bigger, where it's like, okay, it's not really working out for us to either expand or raise capital here. So let's see what the US has to offer. So they start by setting up a Delaware corp in the States, and that's where they get that ball rolling in getting into the US.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're gonna do, March 19th through the 24th, we're gonna take up to 8 companies. We got 4 in now out to Silicon Valley for the Silicon Valley experience. We're gonna introduce them for 5 days, and then at the end have a small pitch competition, but actually take them to Palo Alto, right by Stanford University, introduce them to the top law firms, top venture capitalists like Bill Reichert, people like Daniel Kotke, who's one of the original Apple team members, people like that. We're going to do that for 5 days. So it's $3,700, $3,750. But what happens is you pay for your own hotel. We'll take care of the rooms. We'll take care of the room being the meeting room. You take care of your hotel and your transportation over. But if you need to do it, this will give you a chance to get your toe in the water, to be able to meet some of the most incredible people in the Valley and do it through GSD. So I've been doing this stuff in Silicon Valley over 35 years, building companies. We built a company that sold for $1.35 billion. So for startups out there, if you're interested in doing it, you can reach me at Gary@gsdvs.com, March 19th through the 24th. So that's something. But, it's a Valley is basically, it's like a closed club where the valuations are higher, right? It's an interesting club because it's closed until you're there. And once you get into it, it opens up. So tell me, the companies that you see that are having the most success, Guillaume, what kind of companies are they?
Well, I can't necessarily say it's just out of one industry. It's usually the depending on the founder, or at least the founding team. Because the thing is, especially when it comes to European startups that are trying to make that leap to the US, then it becomes more a game of adapting to the culture. And from what I see, it's slightly easier for Europeans to get into the American market and adapt to it than the other way around. The primary reason for that is because Europeans are slightly more reserved in general than their American counterparts. So coming out of your shell is easier than for an American to get into his shell a little bit. So that is something, a more generalistic look at it, because but those are the main things that I've seen so far, because the teams, what you start seeing is that maybe one or two team members, regardless of what side they're from, they start really getting into their own, while others may fall off. And that's when it really becomes challenging for startups, where it's like, okay, do we get a new team member, or do we give them a chance to get their act together? So those are more or less the things that I've seen in general. As it pertains to, you can say, the specifics for the startups themselves, anything tech is still very booming. But one thing that I have noticed is that fintech has slowed down a little bit. I think because the economy has slowed down, the global economy has slowed down a little bit as well. So the fintech industry, depending on what your solution may be, it has slowed down. So, for example, any e-wallet that's being developed right now, that's something that's getting it, yeah, finding it a bit harder to raise capital. But at the same time, if you're doing money management or something of that nature, that's where it's still enough opportunity to raise capital. So that's some insight as to what's going on.
Well, and again, it's, most people take a very shotgun approach to it. They take this approach where they go, I'm going to write all these VCs and let's see what they do. And reality, that's not the way it really works. You've got to have, it's just like if you go to university and you've got friends. If you call your friend from university up, and say, listen, I got a startup, or you call me, or you call one of the other VCs, they're going to take a look. And so it's the same thing. If you're a startup and want to go global, you got to have that network. Why waste your time? I mean, it's like going out, you can't imagine myself, we get hundreds of emails every day and that you just don't have time. But if somebody calls you up or somebody sets a Zoom call near your friend and said, hey, listen, take a look at this company, you're going to look. So it's a filter. So for startups out there, if you really want to do it, take a laser beamed approach. So you remember when we started GSD Labs, when we started out, one of the things that we did is we decided to focus on companies to help them with their networking contacts, help them look at what kind of funding is available, help them go down through and say, is this the right team or not? And do we really have a technology that is presented in a compelling, enchanting way? Let me give you, for instance, if you got a Ferrari in your garage and only it's a Ferrari, that's cool. But you got to take the Ferrari out of the garage, driving it down the neighborhood, driving around. Oh, Guillaume's got a Ferrari. I got a Ferrari too. So you both start comparing notes. Oh, by the way, I belong to the Ferrari club. Let's go to the Ferrari club together. So, but the most important thing is, can we win the race? Can we take the Ferrari was in the garage and win the race? Well, every one of you startups out there, if you really want to do it and get shit done, win the race, go out and win it. So we have incredible, actually, I think Dave Smith is here, one of the startups, I believe. Is that you, Dave, from Safe Steps?
That's me, Gary. How you doing?
Wow, I didn't know you were coming on here today. It's great. Hey, Dave, can you do me a favor? Can you tell them a little bit about GSD and your experience? So Dave has an incredible company called Safe Steps that's got $1 million worth of revenue. And tell them a little bit about your experience. We have startups from all over the world here, Dave, that are listening today. Can you tell them what your experiences have been?
Yeah, Gary, I tell you, the thing is that you've demystified the whole process for me. We began working together in December, And I tell you, you have enlightened me as far as the thinking behind what an investor is looking for and how to present it in a cogent manner. You, in one recommendation or connection that you made for me with another cohort company, has changed the dynamics of my company. You took a look at our situation, analyzed it, and made some changes, and we're much more clear in our message. We're having greater impact, and now we are transitioning our company from an idea that works to a technology that we're incorporating through an application that we couldn't have gotten to without GSD's help. So, I mean, anybody who could consider GSD or is a startup and wants to be successful, I'm just following a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows the way to make it succeed. And I'm a sponge, and I can't thank Gary enough for your help.
Well, this wasn't planned today, Dave. I didn't know you were going to come, but I really appreciate the kind words. But for all you startups out there, this is the way you do it. To get shit done, this is it. So no, it's fantastic. Thank you. So what about, do we have any questions from the audience? You can put them in chat.
Is the Silicon Valley experience still on, Gary?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. The Silicon Valley experience, March 19th through the 24th.
Great.
In fact, I just signed the deal with the facility today. So everything was set. I just got the final pay. Everything's moving forward.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to taking that step, and that's another experience that to me is invaluable. I'm looking forward to it and getting prepared for it. So thank you very much, and send on the information that I need to do.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, to anybody else out there. So Guillaume, you going down through, and what companies today, if we're building a unicorn, we just got a note from chat from Gertz that says, what does it mean that fintech is slowing down and we should rise less, use smaller margins? So,
Okay, well, I think when just to clarify, when I say fintech is slowing down, what I mean with that is the investments towards fintech are slowing down. It's not to say that the industry is less booming, but just that investors are a bit more hesitant to pull the trigger on fintech deals. Of course, the remedy for that is to get as much traction as possible, and that's why I love collaborating with Gary, because with Gary you really get shit done, and that's also one of the primary reasons why it's not just good to, hey, I'm gonna go out and raise capital, but also focus on the business side of things and really get as much traction as possible. And traction can be in the form of you generating a lot more revenue than your competitors, or generating a lot more revenue than your competitors from you could say, a relativity point of view, where, for example, you maybe get to 1 million users within a significantly shorter time than they might have done. So those are things to really consider right now if you're a startup, because if it's one thing that maybe you're in a pre-seed stage, but if you're really working hard and really showing your growth rate, those are numbers that are undeniable. So those are things that when you step to an investor, it's an easier conversation to have. So that's just to clarify that statement.
No, that's great. And so when you see the mentality of the European startups uh, or the European investors, what are the differences? I know you talked about conservative, but what does that mean?
Well, that typically means that I'll give a practical example. So as you've been to some of our events, I try to have a mixed panel of investors from anywhere. And what tends to happen is that the US investors on the panel, they are a bit more aggressive in pursuing, okay, in asking questions towards the startups, the pitching startups. I say, hey, what are you doing right now? Hey, I like that aspect. Can you tell me more about that? And typically, let's say 60 to 70% of the time, only that's when the European investors get almost triggered as to, hey, wait a minute, maybe they're onto something. Maybe I should ask questions now too. So that is a more practical example as to how or what that looks like. And to look at it in an even closer point, um, a lot of the European VCs, they're not necessarily they haven't been entrepreneurs, so they're more focused on betting on the numbers than betting on the team, the people. Whereas when you have the US based counterparts, I'm not saying all of them were entrepreneurs to begin with, but a very big chunk of those guys, they were already out in the field. And something else to add to that point is a lot of the times American founders, they're treated as they're the prize when it comes to US based VCs, where it's like, hey, we're going to call you and blah, blah, blah. Whereas when they come to Europe, the dynamic is completely the opposite, where the VCs sit back and they wait for the deals, because that's just the dynamic how that goes, where you have to run after the VCs. So that's just to give you an idea as to how it in a general sense tends to go. Recently, a lot of European VCs sign on or bring on a American venture partner. So it's the cultures are starting to get a bit mixed up, where they're getting a bit more open to a bit more open-minded. Let's put it that way.
Got it. No, it's interesting. So we're coming up to the top of the show. I want to open the floor to the startups again. There's a question we have. How do you see the blockchain market in the world today? What's happening with blockchain in Europe? Does it have the same cachet that it did 6 months ago or a year ago before all these debacles? Or where is it right now?
Well, when it comes to blockchain in the blockchain circles, blockchain is still very, very booming. The thing is, a lot of people in general sense confuse blockchain with crypto, and they're just using those two terms interchangeably. Whereas blockchain itself as a technology, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with crypto itself. So in blockchain circles, that is still very booming investments. With when you look at crypto, you better have a hell of a story for raising capital for anything crypto right now. But blockchain itself still very booming because the technology is undeniable.
Yeah, no, what does this say? Oh, there's another question. Self-protection policy. I don't know what that means, self-protection policy, but what do you see? What about ChatGPT? These companies that are interested in ChatGPT, what do you see in Europe right now? Is there interest in ChatGPT and generative AI, or what's the feeling right now?
It's still very open, and I actually yesterday had a conversation with somebody in government where it was a sense of, well, we we haven't blocked things yet right now at too many government facilities for or in regards to Chat GPT, but but yeah, that's just from a government angle. As it pertains to, you can say, the whole startup world and things like that, people are right now trying to expand their horizon to try to see, okay, how can we utilize technology as ChatGPT to advance whatever it is that we're doing. And that's why I think the API options that ChatGPT is going to offer and things like that will kind of completely blow it wide open, and not just for European founders, but also anywhere in the world. So everybody right now, it's not like it's the gold rush yet, but people are trying to see, like, okay, how can we utilize this to make something become even bigger?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So Deval asked, according to you, we're at ChatGPT currently in a classic hype cycle. And so from my opinion, I mean, think about the amount of data that's around us. There's 123 zettabytes of data on the planet. If you took DVDs or CDs and stacked them one on top of another today, it would go 94 times between the Earth and the moon. And it's grown at 68% per year. So the amount of data we have in front of us, think about it. When you Google search, you could have 30,000 items up behind, but you look at the first page. Rarely do you go and look for the next pages. So part of the challenge is we need specific information. Now, these generative AI models that can take all the information that's out there and present it to us in a form that we're looking for directly saves us time and money. It's basically hyper-personalized data coming to you in the form that you want. So think about it. We're inundated with data. There's a chance to be able to get it in a form that makes sense to us. I mean, my friend just wrote a book and published on Amazon in 1 hour, and he did it with Da Vinci, ChatGPT. So the ability to do things, take your ideas and expand them, really democratizes opportunity. So in terms of the Gartner hype cycle, we're like in the beginning of this thing. It's not even close. It's like the technology trigger. I've been talking about unsupervised AI models, that these unsupervised ladder networks, variational autoencoders, knowledge graph, those kind of things. Been talking to them for 7 years when I did my company Eva. But here we are. This is real now, and it's democratized for all of us. So it doesn't matter if I'm in Lagos, Nigeria, Williamsport, Pennsylvania, Graz, Austria, Amsterdam. It doesn't matter. It only matters that I get online and I get information that makes sense. Somebody said they had a problem with some code and asked ChatGPT, and it figured out the solution for them, gave them suggestions. That's incredible. And so from my perspective, we're just the beginning of the journey. Think about it. It's going to be so hyper-personalized that ChatGPT's going to know the question you want to ask before you even think about it.
But I think one thing with regards to that, I recently saw an interview with where they asked Neil deGrasse Tyson about it, And I tend to agree with some of the things he said in his interview, where it's like the application of the tool itself, it's great, but at the same time, it will never replace that human factor where basically what you mentioned, that connection as to, hey, I'm connecting with Gary, so that means I am infinitely closer to getting to the person I actually want to talk to. And ChatGPT can't necessarily help with that. They might generate, hey, you should check this website, but then you still have to get through a bunch of other stuff. So the one thing that people will have to keep in mind is to still remain curious and still remain as creative as possible, and use it as a tool rather than a replacement for whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And so got he wrote, Duvall wrote, so you mean a lot of upside? Absolutely. I'm not sure there's going to be disillusionment because we use the web every day. And I remember back in the early 90s, actually, I remember when I took and asked my analyst to print the websites, and I got a stack of computer papers only that thick with websites, right? When I started on to the web, there are no browsers, nothing. I was on a Sun Microsystems workstation, and I remember it was this big. And I said to him that day, wouldn't it be great if we had a tool to be able to look through all these things easily? So I had no idea that here we are. Then we look at in 1997, I started an e-commerce consulting company when they said Amazon was just for books. And I remember we talked about it as being a $30 billion cottage industry. People said to me, nobody's going to use their credit card online. It's not going to happen. They're not going to go down through and book flights. They're not going to buy retail products. It's not going to happen. Amazon's just for books. People want to go into Barnes and Noble, read books. Well, here we are, right? And I remember we did some of the top airlines websites, some of the top retailers from around the world, and it took off. We're at the same, this is for us, each one of us here on this show, this event today. Think about it. This is the beginning of the 20th century, and Nikola Tesla's just talked about alternating current. Think about what happened over the next 30 years to our lives. Things became democratized. Farmers had lights. They could work later in the barn and not worrying about it burning down because they had lights and heat and stoves and all kinds of things. They didn't have to rely on gas or wood. Our lives fundamentally changed. For each one of you out there, we're in the same boat. But, it's not just thinking about it. You want to get into situations like I did when we talked about a browser, right? And we didn't do anything about it. You need to get it out the door and go for it. Don't just talk, do it. Go down and do your customer development, make sure it's the right product, the right place at the right time, but get it out. I can't tell you how many times after the fact people said, I could have done that. I had that idea 10 years ago, right?
I think when it comes to that part, startups go through various stages. And as for the way you and I collaborate is, I typically deal with those early stage ones, and you can really see how they grow, where also the size of their team kind of tends to fluctuate. Where in the beginning, hey, we started with 5 guys. Okay, great, good for you. And then, hey, we raised some capital, but Sean fell off because he wanted to focus on yoga or something. And all of those different stages, it's always something that people overlook. or at least underestimate. And as they go through, I would definitely say from pre-seed stage to Series A, it is a hell of a journey where a whole lot can change within a particular startup. And going from Series A and beyond, that's when things become slightly more stable. And there's you can say they can see a couple of hits coming before they actually hit. But anything before that time it's still very volatile. Still, well, let's not say volatile, but still very dynamic. And then after that stage, that's when people can kind of relax just a little bit more, and that's when they get close to getting to that unicorn stage where, okay, we've been acquired by Meta or by Google or whatever, so now we've gotten a good exit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so Arjun wrote, there's still a lot of hesitation adopting Web3 technology such as blockchain, considering the elements such as data privacy and sharing. What advice would you give to improve the ecosystem around adopting such technologies? I mean, a lot of this is education. It happens every time in technology market. Early adopters need to pick it up. Data privacy and sharing is going to be important because we just talked about there's massive amounts of data and people are concerned that people are going to steal it. So we need to come up with, on the other side of it, blockchain gives us some privacy. Look at in the US, we have HIPAA. So healthcare, having that privacy allows us to be able to share information efficiently and effectively. And if you're a lawyer, did somebody get the contract or not, right? Did they get something or not?
And that goes to when it comes to adoption of these technologies, simplicity is the key, because any new technology that broke through is because it was simple enough for everybody to jump on it. Even ChatGPT, where literally anybody can just use it because it's brought to you in its simplest form. Because if you ask anybody over the age of 50 that might be using it, and ask them, hey, do you know what artificial intelligence is, or do you know what a chatbot is? They might say no, but they're using it on a regular basis. But if you ask, at the same time, if you ask somebody that's a youngster, that's maybe 18 or 20 years old, they might be they have the same thing, where it's like, hey, I might not know anything technical, but I am definitely game to use this. So simplicity is definitely the key when it comes to mass adoption of these technologies. And even the blockchain technologies, the startups that use it, the ones that become successful are the ones that figured it out, the balance between complexity and simplicity.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, listen, we're coming to the top of the show. Guillaume, thank you. I see. I have somebody just wrote me. I've taken a look at your website, so Techstars and YC logos on there. Do you have a partnership with them? And can attending help me get accepted by YC? The situation is our companies have entered places like Techstars, Plug and Play, Y Combinator. It's based upon the merit of what you have. But I can tell you this, if you got revenue, if you got the visibility, the key is what we're doing is really refining what you have. So of course, investors want to or be more interested in investing in your company. Accelerators would be more interested in putting you into their accelerators. I mean, we've had companies that have not gone to Y Combinator or Techstars and Plug and Play and have had incredible success and been sold, right? So it's not saying that you need to take an interim step like that. The thing is, you need to be turbocharged to be able to, you understand what your possibilities are. That's what we do at GSD. It's all about getting shit done. It's not about the talk, it's about the action.
Completely agree. Completely agree.
So he said, I have 2 testimonies from YC alumni, but wondering if attending GSD can help too. Dave was just on, Dave Smith, who just happened to be on the today. So I don't know. Hey, Dave, this is one of our real startups in a current cohort. Can it help?
I got 2 words for you. Hell yes. It's, I can only speak from my experience, Gary. The best decision I made was 4 months ago to join GSD. You have saved me time, you have saved me money, and you have added rocket fuel to us and the trajectory of our company. So I can only tell you, Gary, thank you. Those are
Yeah.
2 words that, and I only want to be following your guidance because it's helped so much. So hopefully that answers that question.
Okay, now, I hope that, Cristobal, I hope that gives you some indication. It works. I've been doing this stuff for 37 years in Silicon Valley with 17 startups. So we've been around the block a few times doing it. And it's not about the talk again, Cristobal, it's about the action. We're Silicon Valley based. We have an office in Florida also, but we're Silicon Valley based, Palo Alto. We are virtual, and our goal is to be able to help the companies. Why? Because we're also interested in potentially invested in the companies. We're interested in introducing the companies to our partners, so our investors. We're interested in introducing the companies to our corporate friends that can help. It's all one network. So anyhow, thank you, Guillaume, for attending. We just had a note that said Godspeed. So that's it. I guess that means get you done, right?
Definitely.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody for attending one more time of How to Build a Unicorn. My name is Gary Fowler and I'm your host. Let's all get shit done. Thanks, Guillaume. Thanks, everybody. Stay happy, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless, and I'll see you back soon. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.